Hello, my name is Nicole Mullen, and I am from Ashland High School Teen Press.
And I'm Jade Bromley, and we're here with
Mtume Gant.
And Mtume Gant is known for his acting roles in HBO, the series Oz. He's also director of the 2015 film Spitfire. And most recently, he has directed the film Whiteface, which is showing at the Ashland Independent Film Festival of 2017. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, great to be here.
So to start us off, could you tell us about the movie Whiteface?
Okay. Whiteface is about a black man, actor who decides to play a role in life where he puts himself in whiteface and takes on the characteristics of whiteness, and it's kind of a psychological study of people of color's struggle and journey in a world where whiteness kind of dominates. So, and also in this kind of time of like conservative, Trump level whiteness that exists right now. So, yeah, that's pretty much the long and short of it. There's a lot of different little rivers, but yeah.
So, going off of, it is a very interesting time now to use the term interesting about our political climate right now. Why do you think the film Whiteface is so poignant now, especially?
I think because people are actually talking about these things like regularly. Whether it's social media, whether it's over dinner, whether it's at the bar, wherever they are, everybody's talking about this stuff. So why don't you do art about it? Why aren't we making movies, and not just like comedic satire about it, like laughing. I think people are very comfortable like laughing at it and poking fun, and not really having like serious, like kind of dramatic discussions about it. So. It's on everyone's mind.
Yeah.
So it's like, why are we, let's put it in art,
Exactly.
Come on.
Because in the movie you do use tools, like you use satire, you use like kind of horror a little bit, and some of it is comedic, but at the same time it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And arresting to see this movie about this man who feels like the only way that he can get past these obstacles is to become white and to and that's the only way that he can excel in life. How did you want the audience to react to this? Because this is it's an arresting film.
I don't know if I have a reaction that I want them to have so much as I'm more curious based on how you look at life, what will happen. I think it'll be different for different people. I do think this is a movie where your lens on life will very much affect how you take the movie. The things that you accept as that's what the way the world is. It'll probably affect you one way. If you're very angry about the way the world is, it may affect you another way. If you've never thought about these types of things, it will affect you another way. So I don't have a particular aim. I want them to go out. I want them to ask themselves certain questions about identity, because it's also a piece about really about identity, and I think identity is a big topic also now. Identity is a big topic in America now, and the idea of, can you assume your own identity? Who gets to assume their own identity? Who has that agency? Who doesn't? And I don't have a. I just want you to ask yourself some questions, and then hopefully it makes you do that. Hopefully it does.
Definitely.
We'll see.
Definitely.
So I'm interested, like, in this process of like becoming like white. Was it supposed to be like he's finding more success in that, or was it supposed to be that like? Because I know from a personal perspective, like what the outside tells you is not always as intense as what you're telling yourself. And so when you're telling yourself the only way that I can succeed is to not be myself, sometimes that's worse or harder than when the rest of the world is telling you that you can't succeed because of who you are? Like, what is that journey in the film?
I would say the journey in the film, without kind of giving it away. I mean, the whole really main point of it is you can try to create something, but the world is gonna let you know who you are, and they may play with you for a while. You might be a sideshow for a while. You're going to be, even when you want to have a good identity check. I feel like in this culture, even when you want to have a identity change that's positive, when you do these kind of very mainstream materialistic ways of like your face and when everything becomes these kind of materialistic things, people will play with you for a while, but then they're always going to want to put you back in your place. And you're gonna have to go, all right, that was fun, that was cool, like, yeah, all right, cool, could you go back and be who you are though, because like that was like we're not doing that anymore. And that's really, I think, with the film, that's something that I do believe, and something that I was trying to really point with the film, that the world around you, nature, will always expose who you really are, and you can't really run from that.
So learn to accept and embrace who you are, as opposed to trying to become something and then not being able to achieve what you want from that.
Right, and then if you find who you are not being accepted, who you really think you are, who not being accepted, then you have to then fight for that rather than try to change. I think there's always been more success when people try to stake the claim for the identity that is authentic, rather than try to assimilate in these kind of ways that are just so gargantuan and like, oh God, come on, man, it's not gonna work, So yeah.
So do you identify with Roger then? Because I think lots of people can identify with
Charles,
his.
Charles, yeah.
Oh yes,
Charles,
excuse me, Charles.
Roger's last name.
Yes, with Charles Roger,
Rogers,
because lots of people can feel like that, oh, I'm supposed to be this. I was born this way. This is the way I'm supposed to be. Did you identify with that to create him as a character, or how did him as a character come about?
I mean, I had to after a certain point. I mean, when I wrote the scripts, I was thinking about people who were an extreme, like people like Don Lemon or Stacey Dash and things like that, who are kind of extreme that I don't relate to. At least, well, I'll say I don't relate to in an immediate, like I don't have their politics or their outlook on life, their viewpoint. But then I don't think when you're an artist it ever helps you if you don't make it personal. I think you can watch movies and always say this person does not. He's talking about something or she's talking about something that she doesn't really know. They don't really know. So I said, I have to understand. So the acting world, I'm a classically trained theater actor. So these things I actually understand. I was a little different than him when I was in theater school. I was constantly fighting with my theater teachers about identity and representation and what it really means to be, a person of color in a Western theatrical context. So I constantly had these fights where they were saying there is no Western theatrical context, there is no race, things like that. You're making these things up. So that's where those angles in the script really came in, because I had to relate to those times that I then realized, when I look back, that I probably did conform, and I did do what he did to a certain degree, and maybe those things subconsciously that I didn't even understand that I had done, and so you have to, and I do think the extremes he goes to, of course, it's a very expressionistic kind of. Have I ever done that? I don't know. I don't think so. He's like in my right mind, but but I would say that I can, by doing it, I definitely found relation. I definitely could say I could understand going. I mean, I think like the sister in the film, I think that's probably actually me. The person who actually is me is the sister. Yes, she definitely totally is me. That's when I wrote that. That's something that I would say. actually a dream that which she says actually something that a dream I used to have. So it's like something that I would say. So, but her big crux is she says, I do actually completely understand what you're doing. They're just having two different, kind of interpretations on how to continue.
Because this film is the struggle between conformity and identity, and especially as someone who works in Hollywood for a long time. I mean, you went to theater school, you've done lots of acting, you've done directing, you're a producer, I mean, you've been in Hollywood. And then I have this quote from you that you said in August of 2014. You wrote a piece in remembrance of Ruby Dee on the struggle for honor of people of color in the film industry. And you said, quote, "It has taken me 20 years to fully accept that within the confines of the industry structure, I am not meant to have the career that I deserve." How do you grapple with this truth? I mean, look, you said 76% of speaking roles in U.S. movies go to white actors.
Yeah.
How do you grapple in this institution that is about conformity?
Yeah.
How do you grapple with that?
Try to not conform. I mean, and I have a lot of people tell me no. I mean, the realities that exist are, I mean, Hollywood's a tricky place. I'm not as involved in Hollywood as I used to be for personal, for really good personal reasons. But the time that I spent there, I learned a couple of things. A, whenever you really are having independent vision, regardless of race, whenever you're really an independent thinker, it's going to be very tough for you. From people like Hal Ashby to John Cassavetes, these are white people, Barbara Loden, like these are people, and they had very independent visions that were independent from what Hollywood wanted anyone to be doing. So they were just kind of like, so I knew that, and I was told this by white actors, and then I was then found out that even becomes lesser when you add things like your gender, your race, your religion, and these things. So how I grappled with it was, know what you can deal with, and know that you have. It's just not going to be very easy, and it's very nebulous. You just don't quite know. Like I every day I try to find new methods of how to figure these things out, but I can't say I have any answers. So knowing what I can deal with, I know what I can deal with now. It seems to change every like more things that I can deal with seems to happen as I get older. But it's quite difficult. I mean, and then making work that I feel reflects things that I want to say. I'm very passionate about that. Not just for myself, but for filmmakers in general.
Yeah.
I just think people really need to kind of get back to saying what they want to say. I do think we live in an era in this business where people are trying to make things that appeal constantly, and I'm just I talked with a director and a writer. He was like, "Well, I don't really want to say that, but I think it'll work better." I was like, "Oh my God!" To me, that's like
you're stifling the
that's like naming your child something that someone else wants you to name them. But you're like, I hate that name. But
because you told me to name him, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, and they'll get into this really good school. I don't know. So I'm hopeful I'll have more answers. But doing your own work and then also like finding the balance between, if things don't go the way you want them to, not beating yourself up totally, but then also thinking of alternative methods.
I'm curious, do you think that underrepresentation of ethnically different people in like film and media will push artists of different ethnicities to create more authentic and deep stories? Like, instead of conforming, feeling that because they haven't had that opportunity, that what they say needs to be really real and important.
It's interesting. It's a good question, and the thing that's interesting about it is there is a drive for a diversity in things, but the diversity is still contingent on the people who have the power kind of creating the parameters of what diversity is. So, you know, what's the question then becomes, how satisfying is that to people who are underrepresented? Are you happy enough? There was an article I read with four Japanese women talking about the Ghost in the Shell whitewashing thing, and they were interviewed about it, and it was funny because two of the women had a kind of very different kind of view. One was very optimistic, like, holy kinds of movies, everything's are happening, and the other woman, she was like, yeah, but like I'm still a sidekick.
Yeah.
You know, she's like, yeah, there's more of us in movies, but there's not more of me leading. Or if I'm in a movie, it's directed by a white guy. Yeah. But three Asian women are by a white male, so it's not even a woman, you know, and it's like, what's going on? So it becomes, how satisfying is the diversity that's happening to underrepresented people? And I don't know. For me, that's not satisfying, but I'm not everybody. So, but I think that also represents kind of back to what I was saying before, is a larger thing in movies, and I think in TV and everything, where people are conforming to what the business needs are, this regardless of race and gender or anything, because people's mentality is making things that are more appealable. Right. Because also the industry is in such a weird time because of video on demand, and less films are getting picked up, and so everything is really scrambled. So it's hard to know. I would hope that filmmakers would just say, you know, after a certain point, man, forget this, man. Let's just do what we want to do, and you know. But who knows? I don't know. I hope so. I really do hope so. I really, really hope so. But we'll see. Yeah. So
you were named after James Mtume, the Grammy-winning R&B musician, who also worked with Miles Davis, which is fantastic. And you also grew up with musical parents, and then you did Spitfire, which was about hip hop.
Spit, I just call Spit. No problem.
Excuse me. And so, how did this? I mean, when did you know that you wanted to be an artist? And
very young. Yes? Yeah, I mean, my mother put me in like children's theater. I was really young, and probably because I was hyperactive. So she threw me in there, you know, do something. So yeah, no, so I was very, very young, and I acted. I wanted to be, I knew I wanted to be an actor when I was like really young. I was pretty set on that, and probably only had like one or two times where I was like, I don't want to act. And now I'll be like for like a day, you know, but I was pretty, I didn't really start having challenges with acting until I became an adult. So I was pretty focused on that pretty early on. And filmmaking, though, that's interesting. I wanted to make films since college, but money always scared me. The money, it still does. I still get really nervous. I'm trying to think about doing a feature film, and I'm like, so much money, you know. So, but yeah, being in the arts, even when I've like kind of changed myself over, what my focus is, it's always like art. I don't like think of, maybe I'll just go and, you know, get a job
as an accountant.
Exactly. It never crosses my mind. No.
I feel like creative people tend to, even if they jump from like one thing to another, they still need to stay creative, because that's who they are at their core. It's like someone who's creating things and thinking and being different.
Yeah. I have a friend, he struggled as an artist for many, many years, and he quits art. You know, he quits. I'm not gonna be an artist anymore, and I'm like, when is he gonna change his mind? And then like literally like, I was like, what you doing? I've been working on a book. And I'm like, liar! I told you. You know,
because it's part of you. I mean,
it's part of who you are. Yeah, no, you gotta make that move. So yeah, but yeah, no, I've always known. You know, the tough part has always been, all right, what can I deal with?
Yeah,
What
and
can I
like
deal with?
how you walk the line between like genuine artistic expression and like the logistics of paying for a movie. How do you make sure people watch it? How do you walk that, you know, ever thinning line, it seems?
I don't know. It's getting more challenging. I realize I have a very different mentality than majority of my peers, and I don't know what that is. Maybe because I didn't go to film school or something like that. So certain things you're taught to kind of accept. This is how you do things.
Yeah.
How I walk it, to be honest with you, I kind of walk it pretty defiantly. I'm pretty stubborn. It could. I don't know if it's bad. I don't know. I'm still waiting to kind of see, like, is this really bad that I'm like how stubborn I am? So I'm like, nope. Not that I don't listen and also I don't take advice.
Yeah.
You know, I solicit advice often, but
You're like, this is
what
I
I
want to do.
This is what I want to,
yeah,
and this is how I want to do it. And like, you know, but what I then have to do is, it's weird because like I could have done what they did, and they could have been right to a certain degree, but it wouldn't have been what I wanted to do, which is really what's more important to me. Which is like my egomaniac. I don't know, but I don't believe it. I do believe in personal vision and allowing people to have personal vision, and I'm big on that in general. I think, you know, I feel like so many people are forced to kind of not be themselves. I just don't like it. So, which is my wife is yeah. I just don't like it. Like I'm watching. I'm like, I bet that's not your movie. I bet your movie was something a little different, and I probably would have liked it more. You know. So, how I walk that line right now, I don't know. But when it comes to, you know, like I said, I'm trying to do a feature film next, and that's tough because then you start getting into people like producers having to say if they want to give you money and things like that. So I don't know. I've been lucky so far that like I haven't had people try to really strong arm me. No, I haven't had that yet, but it'll happen. Trust me. I haven't been a director in this planet who hasn't had someone, you know, tell them no.
Because it's a hierarchy.
It is. So yeah, I don't know. I right now I walk it pretty defiantly, and
which is kind of what your movie Wife is. It's a very like defiant movie. It's very
it's very defiant. Stylistically, it's very defiant. I know that's part of the reason why it's, you know, it takes people aback. It's, you know, it's very But I feel that
powerful in that way.
Yeah,
I mean, which makes it, you know, so great to see because it's powerful in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like you can't make a film about defiance without being defiant.
Yes.
You know, it's like it's like making a comedy that's not funny.
Yes.
It's like, okay, I'll make a movie about this comedy, but it's like no one laughs.
That's the joke.
That's the joke, and you're just like, no, we're not gonna do that.
I think that the best art is like art that's revolutionary and pushes boundaries, because art is always the thing that makes people think, and it's always the thing that changes things. In history, if there wasn't art, there would be no change. We'd still be living in the Middle Ages, and it would be a terrible, terrible place. You know, like it was
totally
ingenuity and thinking that
totally
brought
agree.
that about.
And you gotta. It's some of the best ideas were rejected, and I was reading about something. Actually, I'm a big Robert Altman fan. I went and saw him at McCabe and Mrs. Miller last night, and he's one of the most amazing directors. And I watched a thing with him where they talked about when he did it. One of the films he did before he did MASH. He did a studio film, and he was before they were doing kind of like a lot of like body miking. He kind of pioneered a lot of body. He kind of pioneered body miking. But he also had people like overlapping talking, and the studio exec saw the dailies and was like, "How dare you do a movie like this?" And he fired him off his own movie.
Wow.
He didn't even cut this movie. It's the movie he did before MASH. And he cut them from the movie. And everybody was like, "You want to work in Hollywood again?
Yeah.
You're done. Your career is finished." He's like, "Okay." Then he made MASH, which changed the industry in several different ways, because he tried to outside of the studio system, out the lot, and the miking thing is not something you're doing everywhere. Like no one will shoot a movie without doing that. You have to do that now. But when he did it the first time, guy was like, "Are you out of your mind? You're crazy." Thought he was crazy, or he didn't know what he was doing. He was stupid. He's like, "No, I know exactly what I'm doing."
Yeah.
You know, and so you have to kind of like, you know, just you know, I watched an Agnes Varda film that was called the Creatures, and everyone panned it when she did it, and I watched. I was like, "This movie's amazing," and everybody now was like, "Yeah, we were wrong. It actually is kind of amazing."
Yeah. You're like, "Oh, now you realize it."
Now that Agnes is like an old woman, you know, Agnes, you were wrong.
Yeah.
She looking at you like,
it's
dummies.
about time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I told you it was good. But yeah, it's just you gotta just if you believe in it, like I don't say be stubborn just because you know
to be stubborn.
Yeah, but if you believe in it, if you could defend, you know, why you did that or why this is the way it is, then defend it. Say I want to do this, but I want this is more important to me, and they're like, well, okay. I'm like,
yeah.
I think that really connects back to like identity, because if you hold your values and you're saying this is who I am and this is what I want, then you're going to succeed when you actually get that done. It's not going to be like, I did it because
and it'll be
told
much
me
more
to.
satisfying.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's much more satisfying. Yeah, exactly. If it's what you want, you know, and as long as you're clear, this is something that you want to be doing, not, you know, you're just doing it because, you know.
Because you just feel
like it, you think you're a rock star. No, I don't know. No, I'm the most critical person. Trust me, I'm watching like,
how is it to be because this is the film's debut,
yeah.
And so
I watched it last night for the first one.
And so you're having people watch this. You're having like you're meeting all these fellow filmmakers. What is going through your head?
It's excruciating. Watching my movies is the most excruciating experience. I do not like it. I don't understand these filmmakers who get into it. I have friends who say, "Oh, I'm watching this screens." I'm like, you find that enjoyable? I hate it.
Because the artist is the most critical person of their own.
Well, I don't watch the movie. I watch the Adobe, Premiere screen, and I'm seeing the edit, and I'm seeing where I hit click, and I'm seeing. I don't see the work. Yeah. No, I don't. All I see is the work I made.
Because you're so engulfed in it.
And then I'm acting in it, and then like I'm acting in it, so I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, it's me on the screen, and I'm like, you know, it's not fun. I don't enjoy it. I do enjoy the after.
Yeah.
And no matter what, like I screened a very big festival with my first film, and the audience thing was very split because it was very new for them. Mm-hmm. See this one guy, he just look at his face, he was just like
exactly like that.
He's
exactly
like he didn't like it, he didn't get it. He's like, and I was like, cool. Yeah. I don't mind that. I don't. Yeah, it's cool. Those are fine. The reactions and people want to talk about it, and they're like, this film that people were like, whoa, what's that? That's cool for me. But like in it, watching them, they're there. I sit in the back. I probably won't watch every single one that screens. I'll probably watch one more tonight, and I'll really try to watch it this time. But then like Sunday and Monday, I'll just go to Q&A.
Yeah.
It's tough, but and you're screening amongst your peers, and people are just, you got phenomenal filmmakers everywhere, and people, so it's never. But but also filmmakers can also be your greatest crowds.
Because you guys are in the
same
struggle
boat.
of it together.
I've been to film festivals where like the best thing about it was the filmmakers are being there, and you build a camaraderie, and it's Then I've been to other film festivals where there is no camaraderie. It's the competition is very high, and that's a whole other. But it's usually I think the festival dictates energy personally. This festival doesn't seem to dictate energy at all. This festival seems to dictate a very loving energy and a very kind of community energy. Other festivals I can tell, the competition is very big, and they always kind of mention the competition.
Yeah.
And it's like
find a way to put it into
and
every conversation.
Yeah, and it puts you in, that kind of mentality. And you're like, I already made that. For me, I already made the movie. Ain't nothing else gonna happen. I like it. They don't give me an award. They don't give me an award. They don't. Who cares? You know, none can do like that.
I'm curious. I tend to define art as like something that gets a reaction. It's like this ongoing battle I have with people, and I'm curious. Do you think that for you, regardless of if the reaction is positive or negative, that you feel like that it was important that you got a reaction?
Totally.
And do you think that like with competition that kind of like takes that away, that only the positive reaction is valuable or important?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. You know, that's interesting. I never thought about it like that, but then that makes me wonder when it comes like programming a festival, is that in their heads? In like, you know, a competitive festival. And there's some festivals who are but you know, there are festivals who are non-competitive, I think, for those reasons. Like I've been to a couple of like festivals that don't do awards, and I wonder if that affects their programming. You know, I don't know. That's a really good. I don't know. I mean, and then also because of audience and the idea of what audience will expect or accept, and I think that's such that's a constant argument between filmmakers and programmers. It's this idea of audience acceptance. Because a lot of times programmers will say, well, you know, I don't know if it's right for our audience. And you go, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And then you kind of, and then you go.
I mean, that's kind of a cop-out answer, isn't it? A little bit.
I get it. I don't want to totally take it from them to a degree, but on the same token, it's like if you think also a film is very good, isn't part of the programmer's job is it to educate the audience?
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. There's a that's a constant argument between filmmakers and programmers. It is one of the biggest, because usually it's one of the biggest reasons you'll get from a festival who say they may like your film, but they didn't program it. They often say audience or things like that. And I get it, because at the same token, this is capitalism. This is money.
Yes.
You have to get people in the door. You don't want to turn them off. So I get that. But on the same time, you know, part of curation is you are to give the curator some time to kind of expose you to things that you would never thought you would have liked. Check this out. You might not like it, but you know. So I think even having like an after hours thing, I think is kind of good for a festival here, because I think there probably is more bent to saying, hey, something a little different. You know. And festivals who do that. So I don't. Yeah, it's tough. I do think a lot of these things really affect it, and it's. I don't know. So yeah, it's sure. I don't know.
So I have one more question before we wrap up. When you show this film, do you have let's see. What would you hope the audience goes into their life questioning after seeing this film? Because you said you wanted people to at least see this and ask questions. What kind of things do you hope they ask questions about when they?
How much do you allow the world to dictate who you are, and how much of your own judgments of others really are built from the world around you? How much is like from your own self? You know, is it secondhand news that you're using to use the world to make your world vision, or is it authentic? And are you asking yourself these questions in a real kind of way? How do you walk through your life? You know, and then I think you would then realize that we all do it to a degree, and why. You know, and ask yourself why you're doing that. And I think that's really the main thing. That's the main thing, and I think everything else builds off from that.
Cool. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. Great conversation. Thank you very much.